The cold air in the courtroom felt heavier than usual, pressing down on everyone's chest like an invisible weight. A man sat beside his elegant mistress, signing the divorce papers that would end his marriage to the woman he once promised forever. Across from him, his black wife sat silently, no tears, no anger, just a quiet strength that unsettled the room. The judge's gaze lingered longer than expected, as if he already sensed that justice would take an unexpected turn. No one knew that before this day ended, every smug smile would fade, and the truth would strike harder than anyone imagined. Don't forget to subscribe and like for more powerful real-life stories that will leave you speechless. Before the courtroom walls witnessed their silence, Danielle had once believed her marriage was unbreakable. She was a devoted wife, steady, hard-working, and endlessly patient. For 7 years, she supported her husband, Michael, through every career setback, every self-doubt, and every new dream he wanted to chase. When he finally found success as a corporate lawyer, she thought they had reached the life they'd always envisioned together. But with Michael's success came distance. Late nights at the office turned into missed dinners, and phone calls home became short, rehearsed excuses. Danielle noticed the subtle changes first. The new cologne, the extra care in his appearance, the way he smiled at his phone instead of her. Then one day, she found the message that shattered her peace. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you." It wasn't signed by her. The other woman, Clara, was young, confident, and ruthless in her pursuit. She flaunted her affair openly, certain she had won. Michael, blinded by infatuation and arrogance, convinced himself that leaving Danielle was an upgrade, a new beginning with someone more his type. Danielle didn't scream, she didn't beg. Instead, she gathered every document, every message, and every financial record. She went silent, observing, preparing, and waiting. When Michael filed for divorce, she didn't resist. She simply said, "I'll see you in court." Now, as they faced each other across that cold courtroom table, Michael had no idea that the quiet woman he once underestimated was about to turn his arrogance into his undoing. The courtroom buzzed with quiet whispers as the judge entered, his gavel striking once to demand silence. Michael leaned back confidently in his chair, flashing a brief smirk at Clara. She sat beside him, her fingers laced through his, as if victory was already guaranteed. After all, the case looked simple, a routine divorce, uncontested, with all assets seemingly in Michael's name. Danielle, however, remained composed. Her calmness unsettled everyone, especially Clara, who expected to see tears, bitterness, or desperation. Instead, Danielle's poise carried the weight of quiet power, the kind that comes when a person knows something others don't. The proceedings began. Michael's lawyer spoke first, painting Danielle as a dependent wife who contributed little to his success. He requested full rights to the house, the cars, and the business, offering Danielle a modest settlement, almost insulting in its amount. When it was Danielle's turn, her lawyer stood and handed the judge a thick folder. Inside were records, tax filings, emails, partnership documents, all bearing Danielle's signature. Years ago, when Michael was struggling to start his law firm, Danielle had invested her savings to help him build it. Her name was quietly written as a 50% partner, a detail Michael had long forgotten or ignored. The courtroom fell into silence as the judge flipped through the papers. Michael's smirk began to fade. Danielle's lawyer continued, revealing that she had also uncovered financial misconduct, transactions made to conceal funds and gifts to Clara using the firm's accounts. The revelation drew gasps. Clara shifted uncomfortably, her confidence cracking. Michael's eyes darted between her and the judge, realizing the walls were closing in. When questioned, Danielle spoke softly but firmly. "I built that firm with him. I believed in him when no one else did. But love doesn't give permission to destroy someone's dignity." The judge studied her, impressed by her composure. He turned to Michael, whose arrogance had dissolved into visible panic. The mistress who once whispered promises now avoided his gaze. As the evidence piled up, the tide turned completely. Danielle was no longer the abandoned wife. She was the partner he betrayed, now holding the truth like a blade. By the time the judge called for a recess, whispers filled the room again, this time about Michael's downfall. He had entered this courtroom expecting freedom, but what awaited him was something far more devastating: accountability. And as he sat there, watching Danielle quietly sip her water, a chilling thought crossed his mind. Maybe the woman he thought was weak had been strong enough to destroy him all along. Don't forget to subscribe and like. More powerful stories of strength, justice, and karma are coming your way. When the court resumed after recess, the atmosphere had completely shifted. The smug laughter and quiet confidence that Michael once carried were gone. Even Clara's once perfect posture faltered, her eyes darting nervously around the room as whispers of embezzlement and fraud echoed through the courtroom. The judge leaned forward, his tone stern. "Mr. Michael," he began, "these financial records suggest you used business accounts for personal expenses and concealed funds under false names. That is not only unethical but potentially criminal." Michael's throat went dry. He opened his mouth to defend himself, but no words came. His lawyer tried to object, only to be silenced by the weight of the evidence. Danielle's lawyer placed one final folder on the table. Copies of transactions to Clara's name, signed by Michael himself. Gasps filled the room once again. Clara's face went pale as she realized what this meant. She wasn't just the mistress anymore. She was now tied to his financial scandal. "Your Honor," Danielle's lawyer said calmly, "my client isn't here for revenge. She's here for justice. She supported this man when he had nothing, and now he's tried to erase her from everything they built together." The judge nodded slowly. "And justice," he said, "will be served." In that moment, Michael finally turned to Danielle. For the first time, his arrogance was gone. All that remained was regret. He whispered, "Danielle, please." But she didn't respond. She just looked at him, not with hatred, but with quiet finality. The kind of look that says, "You did this to yourself." The judge's gavel came down hard. The court awards Mrs. Danielle equal ownership of the firm, full rights to the marital home, and damages for emotional and financial distress. Furthermore, the evidence of misconduct will be reviewed for criminal investigation. The sound of the gavel echoed like thunder. Michael's face collapsed in disbelief. Clara slowly pulled her hand away from his, realizing the empire she thought she'd joined was turning into rubble. And in that heavy silence, Danielle finally stood, free, dignified, and victorious. Subscribe and like for more stories where karma delivers justice right on time. As the courtroom emptied, Danielle stood by the large oak doors for a moment, breathing deeply. The echo of the gavel still lingered in the air, not as a sound of punishment, but of peace. For years she had carried the weight of betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak. Now that weight had turned into something powerful, proof that silence doesn't mean weakness and kindness doesn't mean surrender. Outside, reporters swarmed, hungry for a headline. Danielle said nothing. She simply walked past them with quiet grace, her lawyer close behind. When asked how she felt, she gave a single answer: relieved. Justice isn't about revenge, it's about balance. Inside the courthouse, Michael sat slumped in his chair, the reality of his downfall setting in. The judge's words still echoed in his mind. Criminal investigation. Clara, once his escape from responsibility, now stared at him with disgust. Her dreams of a glamorous future had shattered into scandal and shame. Days later, the story spread across news channels. Lawyer exposed for fraud by wife during divorce trial. Social media exploded with praise for Danielle, calling her the woman who fought back with grace. But Danielle didn't care about fame or sympathy. She cared about closure. She returned to her quiet life, focusing on her art, the passion she had set aside for her husband's ambitions. Each painting she created told a story of resilience, of a woman who refused to be broken by betrayal. And though her heart still carried scars, she found peace in knowing she never needed to destroy anyone. She only needed to let the truth speak for itself. Because in the end, karma doesn't need help. It just needs time. Would you have stayed silent like Danielle, or fought back sooner? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like for more powerful stories where strength, truth, and justice win in the most unexpected ways.